Weed addiction for me was a much bigger problem than just being addicted to weed. Every time I would smoke, it would result in other behaviors that had their own set of problems and their own set of consequences. And that's what I want to talk about in today's brief video. If you're new to the channel, my name's Dr. Frank. I'm the founder of AddictionMindset recovery coaching programs, which are dedicated to helping people quit nicotine, THC, energy drinks, and adult media content, substances that I once struggled with. One of the major behaviors that I would partake in when I would smoke weed would be binging social media content. And if I'm going to be honest, this is a behavior that I find myself of recently falling victim to again, and it's having some pretty seriously negative mental health consequences, even though weed is no longer in the picture for me. But going back to when I would smoke weed, typically it would be after a long day of work or a long day of school. And I would come home, I'd smoke weed, I'd watch some TV, and then I would browse social media for probably an hour plus each night before going to bed. And I would spend a lot of time on the toilet stoned using nicotine products, browsing social media too. But that's a whole different story. We don't need to talk about those experiences. So here I am in bed, high, browsing Instagram, and I'm looking at mostly still photos at this point. And I'm getting a dopamine rush from the weed, and now I'm getting a dopamine rush from the photos, and I'm getting a dopamine rush from the likes and the comments and the engagement that I'm getting on some of my old accounts that I used to have, personal accounts, business accounts, not related to this business. Okay. Now, then you start to get into the video content. So now I'm getting stoned, I'm browsing Instagram, but I'm also hopping over to YouTube and watching long format videos, which I don't necessarily think was that bad particularly. Usually they'd be videos on my hobbies or my interest. Then TikTok came along. Instagram Reels came along. YouTube Shorts came along, particularly TikTok early on in my getting sober journey. And now what happened was here I am smoking weed, and my tolerance to weed is going up. I'm needing more and more weed to get high. That's when I got into using the cartridges. But now I'm finding that I need more and more of a rush from the social media content I'm consuming. So now photos don't do it anymore. Now I need short format videos. I need music to be in the background, and I need a new video every 7 to 15 seconds. So my drug tolerance for weed was increasing, but at the same time, as I'm stoned out of my mind, not doing anything, I'm also increasing my drug tolerance for social media content. Building a tolerance to social media, building a tolerance to porn works the exact same way it does to another drug like weed, nicotine, or alcohol. You need more of it at a faster rate, at a harder hitting rate to get that same burst of dopamine, to get that same good feeling. And what I found happening towards the end of my weed smoking journey was I could be high browsing TikTok, and then that would eventually lead to me watching pornography shortly after, right? Because TikTok has, let's be honest, a lot of softcore pornographic content, and it finds you even if you're not looking for it. And that would be my night. Now, I have a really high tolerance to get some dopamine. I need to be stoned. I need to be consuming nicotine. I need a bunch of short format videos to warm me up. And then for the grand finale, I'm flipping over to Pornhub. And now, because of what's happened with social media content consumption, it's not just one long video that's going to do the trick once I'm on Pornhub. No, I need to flip between a bunch of different videos. I've heard this referred to as dopamine surfing. It's where you're kind of keeping yourself in this steady flood of dopamine, but you're not actually getting to the point of the come down or the release. And this is really, really bad because dopamine, from what I understand, is meant to be dripped in slow amounts. It's released, you come down, it's released again, eventually you come down. So sustaining it, like I was doing with smoking weed, I'm high on weed, I'm high on nicotine, I'm high on social media content, I'm high on adult media content. This is extremely damaging, and it put my mental health in a really, really bad place, especially when it came to depression, anxiety, feelings of boredom, right? I was in a really, really, really bad spot. And I have a feeling that there's a lot of people that fall into this same cycle or this same trap when they smoke weed. Now, once I stopped smoking weed, suddenly I wasn't paralyzed or couch locked into a position where I would wind up binging social media for hours on end. So once I stopped smoking weed, I started to break that cycle naturally by osmosis of social media addiction. And the less social media I was consuming, it also resulted in me consuming less and less pornography because I was being triggered less often by platforms like TikTok or Instagram and seeing these images that, quite frankly, I was trying to avoid at this point, but they would still pop up. So just by smoking weed, by quitting smoking weed, my other behaviors started to change for the better. And what I've realized, and this I find fascinating, now that I've been detached from weed, detached from nicotine, I've recently fallen back into the social media trap as both a creator and a consumer of social media. On the side of being a creator, I've fallen into the trap of checking my likes, checking how many followers I'm growing, obsessively checking my email. And I've kind of let the wheels fall off of that over the last few weeks. And I can feel the side effects setting in, the depression, the anxiety, the comparisons that I'm making between myself and other people I'm seeing on social media. And this is a very dangerous trap to fall into. So if you're smoking weed and you're falling into this similar trap, I want you to check out the pinned comment and I want you to check out the video description. I have a free course on quitting social media, quitting weed, quitting adult media content, quitting energy drinks. I'll see you guys in one of those two spots.